Good morning, it's 8:30 a.m. and we are here for another week. And we'll begin with Tom Gaines from Central Services.
Here for another great week. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. So for consent, nobody in Central Services has any consent items this week. Don't anticipate any walk-ons. So that's going to be good for us. Last week, Rob and I met with Teresa, Alex, and Joe Kunkel of Samaritan Hospital. I outlined my reasonings as to why we shouldn't, pay for any of the invoices. They articulated their reasoning, which was, as valid as ours. I suggested that after the hospital was completed, the relationship would remain. I didn't see how either one of us was going to be made whole after. So I suggested we split the cost down the middle. Teresa was going to take it to their legal team, see if they would even be able to do that. So we're just waiting to hear from them now. It did sound like there's no way to keep the coroner in the building after March 7th. And I have several meetings this week with the architect, and we'll be figuring out temporary space as needed. And I'll be asking Craig to be a lot more involved in those meetings. It's hard to schedule him for meetings. So, but I'm going to need him to be present in some of these so we can figure this out and make sure that we get what he needs to get set up. So hopefully the hospital will find a way to do that, and the $360,000 some odd dollars will get split down the middle. And Joe Kunkel brought up some good points. They did eat quite a few costs outside of what we had in these invoices, but still, they didn't meet the spirit of the GCCM process. They were both, I think, surprised by that email too. They didn't even know who that gentleman was, but he definitely had insight onto the project. So I'm sure that they're looking into that. Tomorrow we have a non-mandatory pre-submittal conference for interested general contractors who want to be the general contractor for the coroner's office. It's right after the facilities and TS updates. It's all virtual. It's not in person. We'll be discussing the coroner's office project, the timeline, expectations for the general contractor, as well as all other relevant topics. We should have a good response. It's my understanding that we've generated considerable interest in this project, and we're expecting a pretty competitive selection process. I think last I heard there was 8 to 10 general contractors that were taking a serious look at this that wanted to compete for it. So hopefully that's going to be good. The Central Services and HR building, I will be submitting a budget extension for this project. I haven't had to do a budget extension in several years, so I'm a little bit disappointed with how it's gone. But we spent some money last year on abatement that we didn't expect, and we had to spend more funds this year on unexpected or unforeseen items like structural issues in the building, more abatement. So it's become a little bit more expensive than we expected. Currently, Vanessa, Kevin, and I are all looking through our budget to try and find extra funds. We haven't identified them yet. We have some ideas, but we have to make sure that's going to be okay. Currently, that budget extension is expected to be about $91,000, but I'm thinking that we can reduce that hopefully by 50%. So we're still working that out and trying to find that. So I'll have a detailed budget breakdown on exactly what those costs are, but right now that's where we're trending. At the jail, the old well was supposed to be decommissioned last week. DC Drilling was hired by Sullivan Construction, and they had 2 different rigs break down, and then they turned around and said they can't get to it. So DC Drilling suggested another company to Sullivan. Sullivan is getting them under contract, and hopefully this week that will be decommissioned. That's the last step we need for the plat to be completed. So as long as that gets done, you guys should see Mylars pretty soon on that plat, and that should be finalized. I know the PUD is dying to get that plat done, but the PUD did they send us an initial purchase offer for that panhandle, which I have not replied to. I know I wanted to talk to Fallon about it. She was out, so she's back this week. I'm going to try and set up a meeting with her, but it doesn't seem to me that any of the conversations I had with Fallon moved anywhere within the PUD. So Or maybe they did, I don't know, but it was a pretty disappointing offer. So, there was, so last week with the Washington State Department of Transportation approving everything for our roundabout, which the bid opening is on the 25th, this week. We started to share the detour information with some of our civic partners. I was going to put it out on Facebook, and then I got a text from Ray Towery at the city saying that he had shared it at the city council meeting, and I think some concerns were brought up. And I think the concerns mainly are about school bus routing on that Washington Way when school starts. I have a teleconference this morning with Ray Towery and Lighted Construction to discuss it. Hopefully, if the contractors are incentivized to get done early, they're working 6 days a week. Worst case, that detour will be in place the first 2 weeks of school opening. Best case, it might only be a week. So I think the better thing, and we can't do the work without the detour regardless. There's no way we can do it without having this detour in place. So I think the best thing to do is to work with the school district and say, this is coming, and figure out how to, either talk with those families, get the kids picked up somewhere else. It's only going to be for a week or 2 weeks at the most. So we'll see what happens after the teleconference today at 10 o'clock. As soon as I get that done, I'll start posting that on Facebook, and the sheriff is going to repost that as well. So that'll definitely get to everybody that I can think of. I'm going to meet with Kevin McCrae this morning if he's available. I talked to him last week about meeting this week. I'm assuming he'll be available. So I don't know if you heard, the Washington State Supreme Court adopted some iteration of caseload standards based on recommendations from the Washington State Bar Association. Have you heard about this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We've been hearing about it for quite some time.
Well, so it doesn't bode well for us. Kevin's email to me was, it was going to require a doubling or even tripling of his space needs over the next decade. You can't find the prosecutors to fill the offices now. I mean, that's the issue he's up against. Interestingly, I was in the county administrators conference Thursday afternoon, and Chelan County made an interesting comment. They're not having an issue finding prosecutors. They're full, but they don't recruit anywhere in the Northwest. They do all of their recruitment in the South and the Southeastern US, and they don't have any issues finding attorneys. They're moving here. And so I'm wondering if it might be worth the effort. I was going to talk to Kevin about that as well. But I don't know, that's really tough to plan for what your space needs are going to be on something like this.
You're only looking at half of it. The other half is
the public defenders. Yeah. I know. Yeah. That I was aware of. That they've had caseload standards issues going on for a number of years. And they've had just as many problems finding public defenders. So luckily, I think I have a place identified where I can make all of them fit even for the next 10, 15, 20 years. But I don't know that that's going to come to fruition. So certainly will become part of the calculation. I'll talk to Kevin about it. But that's going to be difficult to plan for. So I'll talk to Kevin. I'm sure he's going to talk to you more about it. One of the comments made during the meeting on Thursday was they felt the state had taken into account the timing of the budget process for county government, that they weren't requiring all of this until sometime in 2026 and only some of it in 2026, knowing that it was going to impact budgets in a way that people had to plan for it over a number of years. So possibly 2026 and then 2027 being a more difficult year. But I just have to dive into that and figure out what the requirements are going to be and if our prosecutor can even meet it, and then figure out space. Or if the remote attorneys are working really well, I think you want to start looking at those options as well. He's got 2 out of state now. It'd be interesting to see how that works, see how it tracks. We're inching ever closer to the NACO annual conference in Philadelphia. three of us, me and Evan and Keith, will be submitting our claims for advance per diem, so you'll see that probably in next week's auditors payables. There is a ton of buzz about AI and the Tech Innovation Forum that we're taking part in. I'm receiving a lot of emails regarding content of that and meeting requests off the side, different counties that want to get together. I believe it's going to be an incredibly valuable conference for Keith and Evan. I'm really looking forward to it. And I need to start thinking about locking in the last few names for the NACO HPL in August. So currently scheduled are Swahale, Jim Cook, Gina from HR, Teresa
That's
Crawford.
Swahale is in it right now.
I don't think so. I think she was going on. You know what? Let me double check that. I haven't. Have you received any emails from her?
I had thought she had mentioned being in it, so update
You know
a
what?
few weeks ago.
I think I might have that name put in the wrong spot. I think you're right.
Because I think when Kevin stopped, she was talking about it.
Okay.
I think they talked about it in a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't, I was thinking she might have, I don't know.
You know what? I may have screwed that up on my spreadsheet, and I don't remember that. So everybody else I've talked to as they've gone through it. So, but I haven't talked to her. So I'll have to. I apologize. I'll let
Yeah,
you
you
know.
might check with her, because
Yeah, because she wanted Teresa Crawford to go too, and I didn't want them to go in the same cohort group. So, but well, so that leaves two open spots, possibly three. If Swahale's going through it now, that would be three open spots. So,
Is she going through it now?
well, I'm gonna have to double check. I'll double check.
No, so I'm thinking.
You know what? She might be, because she was in the same cohort group as Jeff that renewed. So,
Gosh, I hate it when we forget little things like this. Like,
I'll check the notes. Because I've touched base with everybody, but I may have dropped the ball on that one. So anyway, I know that there's been discussion of different folks, but I can fill those in, or if the commissioners have anybody they've been thinking about or somebody that they definitely want to go, you want to forward those names to me.
did you guys get the parking lot figured out up at Wheeler?
I think they're still working on it. So we have a civil engineer looking at we're gonna update that tomorrow in the facilities meeting, but we have, so the city of Moses Lake wants us to put in a stormwater swale. We have our civil engineer who specializes in that stuff that's working on the jail. Looking at that, I know that he and Kevin had a meeting last week. It was late last week, and I don't know what the outcome of that meeting was. I haven't talked to Kevin yet this morning. So we're working in that direction.
I just ran into Brad one day
Yeah,
at a baseball game, and he was talking about it.
he's been good to talk to, good to work with. So I like Brad.
Good.
Yeah, he's one of the few people at Moses Lake that I kind of know and have been able to work really well with. So
Yeah, he's a pretty good kid.
yeah. So outside of that, I don't have too much more. I know my meetings don't typically take a half hour to get you updated on the various projects, things going on, especially with facilities and TS being on the next day. So any questions for me on any of the projects going on? I'll get more detailed information on the Dennis building for you once we know exactly, what we find in our budgets to try and mitigate some of that budget extension. I apologize for that.
Are they starting on that fence out the fairgrounds this week too?
They should be. I've approved all the submittal. He was ordering all the material. He was going to set up a lay down yard next to the bathroom near the blue gates. I know that Chris got called in on Juneteenth. We were doing some paving outside of Red Gate. We thought we had all the utilities cut off, but there was a water line out there that was still alive. So Chris came in on Juneteenth to shut the water off and get that repair done. So we're cleaning up that old rock and stuff that's out in front of Red Gate. So that entrance is going to look nicer for fair. So, and then we've still got some lighting, some gate lighting that we're doing there. And I'll have to check the ADA path. They should be done with all of the paving, if not last week, this week. So for that new ADA path coming from bathroom 4 over to center field.
Right.
The repairs at the horse barns, and then the stuff we were doing out of Red Gate. So, yeah. Yeah, otherwise things at the fairgrounds are looking good. The lights are awesome. That definitely brightens up Southfield. I think we have only got 1 or 2 more cameras to put in. Ricky was working on those. Ricky had a good car show this weekend here. And I still got to grab his porta potties. But all in all, things are going well, tracking well.
They're a little over budget on that.
The dentist building, disappointing. Well, and some of that, so I'm going to add 2 more windows. I wasn't planning on it, and that's part of it. So in where Decora's office is, and I believe it's going to be Gina's office, it's on the north end of the building, which is the corner office on C Street, and then the one in the back. There are windows that go all the way around the building, and on the opposite end, there's 2 windows on the south elevation of the building. Well, they got all the insulation in the building and they're stocking drywall, and I walked through there last week, and those 2 offices are incredibly dark.
They don't have any window.
They have just 1 window on the side, and I thought, well, it doesn't match, and it really encloses that office, so it would really be good to add 2 windows on the outside to match the back, but also it's going to make those offices seem much bigger than, and it would be really hard not to put those windows in there. So that was, I have the pricing for that. I haven't okayed it. It's a $16,000 change to add those windows, and the walls are filled with vermiculite, so there's some abatement there, some masonry work that has to be done there, plus the windows. So it's a little bit of an expensive change order, but I think for the long term of the building, it's better. And whoever's going to occupy that, now Decora and Gina and whoever in the future is going to be much happier with that space. Feel good about being in their office all day.
It's cheaper to do it now than later.
Yeah.
If they don't like it.
Yeah. But that'll be part of that budget extension. So parking lot got done. Alan Barrowman was going to be striping it, so he was the striper for Selland. I think I'm supposed to meet up with him today and talk about the striping plan for the parking lot. But again, we'll have 1 ADA space. We don't have any reserved spaces, but we'll try and keep the weed board out of there. So better than parking in the parking lots than on the end of the street, because it's I don't know what it is with Ephrata. Every corner in Ephrata, when you pull up, it's impossible to see down the road and see what's coming. I don't know why it's like that, but C Street's one of them. That I really wish they'd make that a 4-way stop.
We could ask.
I have. So they've been pretty dead set against it. So one of the more dangerous intersections in Ephrata. So outside of that, I don't have anything else for the board this morning. Any questions for me at all?
Can't think of anything else.
Rob? No? You good?
No.
Okay. Cindy?
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank
I don't have
you.
any questions.
Sherry will be very appreciative if that fits. So I've been
Well,
wedding
if there's
plan.
nothing else, then we'll go to recess until 9 a.m.
All right. Thank you.
9 o'clock.
Good morning, it's 9 a.m. and we are here for Development Services Update with Jim Anderson Cook.
Good morning, Commissioners. Happy Monday. Thank you. So before you is 2 decommissioning and reclamation plans for 2 solar projects. One I've shown you before. One's from Silicon Valley Ranch, which is in Winchester, in Quincy, not to be confused with the second one, which you're seeing for the very first time today, which is Quincy Solar. Quincy Solar is the project that is located north of the Port of Moses Lake. That's the oldest project that we had. Again, that's the one that was applied for in 2019, was approved before we had a solar ordinance. It's the one that put us into a moratorium, and then also the one that then we created the ordinance that we're under today. This decommissioning plan from Quincy Solar, again, you're seeing it for the very first time. I received just this last week. This developer, Invenergy, has not been put on notice that the board had made a decision back almost 7 weeks ago, that we are not accepting recycling as part of a decommissioning plan. So they put forward a total decommissioning cost of $5.5 million on a 130 megawatt project spanning 640 acres. And then, again, they haven't been put on notice that we're not accepting recycling as part of that, so they're proposing a $2.2 million offset. Ultimately, then proposing that they bond for an amount of $3.3 million, which they are asking that the bonding be delayed until the expiration of their power purchase agreement, which we don't have the ability to track. So I have a call with them today to let them know that what the board's decision was, again, back 6-7 weeks ago, that we're not accepting recycling. And we also had made the decision that we are bonding at the onset, at the issuance of the building permit. Okay. Previously, we had reviewed Silicon Valley Ranch's decommissioning and reclamation plan, which I have marked up in that single-page document that you have in front of you. They have been put on notice that we're not accepting recycling. Their decommissioning estimate, as you can see in years 1 through 10, is $10,933,000 and some change. Years 11 through the end of life, which is 30 years anticipated, goes down to $10,070,600. You add indirect costs, another $2 million. What Silicon Ranch is proposing and would like for me to ask the board today, which I've agreed to do, is take into consideration some of those components that would be encumbered by creditors, that in the event of a default, the creditors would remove their collateral effectively and try to resell on the open market. It does have value, specifically the modules do have value on the used market, so to speak. So you'll see that those items that I have asterisked are ones that we would potentially probably have to remove, that creditors likely would not be removing, or have to perform in the field to return the site back to its original conditions. So for example, erosion control, the piling removal, the below ground DC cabling systems, the fencing, we'd have to remove the access roads. We'd do site leveling and seeding, we'd be removing foundations, and then aggregate removal and topsoil. So all of those items total $4,710,900. It's argued that the creditors would come in and perform the module disassembly for $3.8 million in years 1 through 10, and the module disassembly years 11 through end of life at $2.9 million. They would be removing the DC cabling systems above ground, and then the MV cabling systems, which is the light gauge cabling systems, the low voltage cabling systems. So I wanted to get the board's thoughts on that, if it made sense that they not bond for those items that the creditors would come and
So
take back.
you'll actually remove a road? I mean, they've got to take the roads out and everything?
Well, we would have to remove the roads. So it would be.
Would they be gravel or?
Yeah, they would be gravel roads. So again, the items that are asterisked are the items that somebody, a contractor that we would employ.
I didn't realize the road removal was part of that. I thought it was just the hardware and the.
Yeah.
So why would we have to remove the road?
Well, it would be what we would require them to bond for in the event we had to hire a contractor to go in and remove the roads. Yeah.
So I guess I was just asking, I didn't realize we couldn't leave road. So it has to be removed to its original state?
That's a great question. So our code says that the roads are required to be removed unless the owner decided otherwise. So if the owner, in this case, it's the Geppers up in Brewster, are the owners of this property. Well, not these are the Seavercrufts in this case, but.
So my question is these are all on leased land, right?
Yeah.
So doesn't this problem become the property owner?
It does. Yeah, it does. And that's been also an argument too, is that at what point would we actually have to come in and do the work anyway? Because it would ultimately be, and in this case, it's the Seavercrufts.
Right.
You know, if Silicon Ranch were to default They would turn it back over to the Seaver Crufts. The Seaver Crufts are likely not going to allow this to exist in the state that it's in on their own accord. So we would think that they would do the removal, but if they didn't, then the bond that would be in place would be, if we decided as a county it was unsightly and the Seaver Crufts did not have the financial wherewithal to remove it on their own accord, then there would be a bond in place for us to do it. Now, the bond, if we bonded, if we required them being Silicon Valley Ranch to bond for the entire $10 million at the onset, at the grand opening of this facility, every single year, it's $500,000 that they would have to post for that bond every single year, on the assumption that maybe someday they go broke, Seaver Crufts don't clean it up, and we're on the hook, so to speak, to rip the thing out.
So how would that work? It's Seaver Crufts property, so we would have to foreclose on Seaver Crufts property to go onto their property to remove this stuff.
Well, we would have how that would work is there's a developer's agreement that we would enter into between Silicon Ranch, the county, and the Seaver Crufts, and it would be spelled out in that developer's agreement the order by which things would occur. Okay. And this would be the last ditch. This would be the last thing that would happen. So if Silicon goes broke, Seaver Crufts, you step in and decommission and tear this thing out. So we're assuming that in your lease agreements, you have mechanisms that require that to happen. Now, whether or not the Seaver Crufts have bonding or any financial agreements in place that require this, I'm assuming they don't, because in talking with counsel, with attorneys that represent other privately held landowners on other projects, they are waiting for us to act on these decommissioning plans before they finalize their lease agreements with their landowners, so that they're not double dipping on the bonding requirements. Meaning, if we're not going to require that they post a bond, then they're going to require that they post a bond in order to ensure that those lands get cleaned up, meaning that the Seaver Crufts don't get hung with the bill to do it.
Yeah, that would be my concern is the fact that these guys walk away, then it becomes Seaver Crufts property or problem.
Yep.
It's their property. The county can't go onto their property to remove these things unless there's some mechanism there that allows us to do that.
And that would be the developer's agreement. That developer's agreement that is executed between the three of us, between the developer, the Seaver Crufts, and the county, is what would entitle us to do that. Meaning, okay, if Seaver Crufts, if you don't do this within X number of years, then we are. Then we're going to act on the bond that's in place. That's going to give us the money to hire the contractor to remove these facilities, so that we don't have to stare at it. And that's been the debate the whole time is.
So the bonding should be for us then.
The bonding is for us. Yeah, the bond, your bond, the county is being guaranteed, and so it's at what level, how much are we requiring them to bond for? So knowing that, or making the assumption that, again, if the developer goes bankrupt, what's going to happen? They obviously are financing the bulk of this facility, and the most expensive component is the arrays themselves. So they're arguing that the creditor is going to come in and take all of those arrays out themselves, repossess them, literally.
Try to recoup some of their.
Exactly, and sell them on the open market. And the Stantec decommissioning plan for Quincy Solar speaks to that really well, and that it talks about the open market that exists for these used panels. So Silicon Ranch is arguing that the very first thing that's going to happen if we go broke is our creditor is going to come in and repossess the panels themselves. So In our decommissioning estimate, we have almost of the $10 million, we being Silicon Ranch, we have, almost $6 million just in costs to remove those panels that we're bonding for, that you, Grant County, are not gonna have to do.
If the lender comes and takes it.
If the lender comes and
If they
takes it.
don't, then we're stuck with that bill.
Exactly,
So.
exactly.
It needs to be for the full amount.
That's just it, because this is new technology
Right?
also.
We don't know what's gonna happen.
Correct.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be doing my constituents a favor if we allowed them to bond for half of it.
Right.
So, and the county shouldn't have to pay for it.
And that's the concern that I've had. It makes sense, it makes sense, but but we don't know because it's new technology. There's no, we don't have a 10-year track record of this to know that what has happened in the past. We can only,
Right. Isn't there a big one down in Adams County by Lynn?
there is, and there's several in Klickitat too, but, and they're functioning
Should be doing fine,
yeah.
but still, we need to protect our hind end.
So it just keeps coming up in some way, shape, or form. This decommissioning plan from Quincy Solar is similar but different. It has different nuances where they're requesting that the bond that we don't require the bond until they start nearing the end of their power purchase agreement, which they've negotiated with the Grant PUD. We don't have the capacity, in my opinion, to track when you're nearing the end of your power purchase agreement, because there could be other developers that have interconnects with the BPA. I don't know who your agreement is with. So I would recommend that not be something that we do. So, but every one of them is different. So I just am looking for, guidance on a consistent,
It all needs to be the same. They all pay it. They all pay for that bond up front.
But they've got to continue it.
Yeah,
See, and that's where, I guess,
and they're gonna need to provide us proof every year that they've got
they're
that.
going
Right.
bankrupt. They're not going to be able to, paying the bond is going to be the last thing they do.
right. It's a financial consideration. In Silicon Ranch's example, this will be the largest bond that this company has posted in their history. I can't help that.
So, let's say that they do go bankrupt. Where's the PUD come in at? So let's say that they go bankrupt. They go out of business. This solar farm is there. Is there some kind of an agreement the PUD could have with them that they take it over?
I'm assuming so, but I haven't seen what that power purchase agreement looks like. In the case of Quincy Solar, they just signed that power purchase agreement. We approved this in 2019. I mean, and we should have probably entered into a developer's agreement in 2019 and had this all ironed out, and they just signed that power purchase agreement. So we can't make these decisions based off of their PPAs, but I'm assuming that there are some provisions in there. There has to be that, the PUD has to be protected too. And so if in this case, Invenergy is the developer, if they go broke or if they sell it, I'm sure that there's some transfer that occurs that is built into that agreement.
So what, I'm just curious now, if we're requiring is it a $10 million or are we the 4.7 million?
Well,
I mean, I guess
yeah. So yes, Commissioner Carter. What I was illustrating in this one-page document in the red handwriting is that if we only bonded for the work that we potentially would have to hire a contractor to do, as is shown by the asterisks, that would be 4.7 million. They're claiming that the total down the right-hand side in years 1 through 10 is 10.9 million, but they're asking for credit of, roughly $6 million for the removal of the panels that the creditor would do if they were repossessing. Originally, how this came up, and it was a decent idea, is that they were suggesting that because those panels had value on the open market, that they would post those as collateral and that we could sell them, and it would actually, there would be revenue from the decommissioning of this development. But then I turned around and asked, how do I know that I'm going to be in first position of those panels? And they came back and said that they could not guarantee that we'd be in first position of those panels.
Okay, not the lender's gonna want them.
Right.
The investors are gonna want them.
Right, because when the permits are, so we issue mechanical permits for this type of a development, and it's based off of a value. So my very first question was, what's the value of those panels? And those panels for this project was valued at $80 million. So there's going to be creditors attached to $80 million investment in panels. So, but in any event, we're not going to be in first position of those panels. So I can't assume that we're going to.
Tell you what they normally pay, or if this is the highest amount, then they have to bond.
They've got a similar project in Georgia, and the bond that they posted was $1 million. It's all over the map. That's why this is so difficult, and it keeps coming up. It's a reoccurring conversation because depending literally on the state and the county that you're working in, everybody's all over the map on these things. Some counties are of the opinion that you can actually make money decommissioning this stuff and recycling the materials. Others draw a similar line that we're drawing, in that it's just too new. It's too new of a market. It's too volatile. Now, I think that we could all agree that it's probably likely not going to go insolvent in the right out of the gate, and we are revisiting this developers agreement. Again, this three-way developer agreement, our code says that we revisit it every 5 years to account for the cost of inflation to decommission. So in our previous discussion, we did talk about possibly delaying the bonding requirement until we get closer to the end of life of the project. So if we are looking at this decommissioning cost every 5 years in the form of a developer agreement, do we not require bonding in years 1 through 5, or and then start looking at it in the years 5 through 10, or maybe years 10 through 15? We ultimately landed on bonding right out of the gate because it comes down to, it's so unknown that we just want to make sure that we're protecting the constituents.
Could we, I'm just thinking out loud, could we enter an agreement that they pay us a percentage of their income from the power it produces over the next 20 years?
I've never heard that, but I mean, that's part of the
income for us.
Thinking out loud. I mean, what there is that we don't have in our code, but it's been talked about is, and kind of what you're alluding to, Commissioner Burgess, is a community benefit agreement. And that there's been a lot of discussion. WASAC's been discussing it. There's a lot of discussion at the state level about community benefit agreements for these type of facilities, and that's kind of what you're pointing to.
I think that's more of a benefit to us than having a bond. I mean, a bond doesn't do us any good until it falls apart.
Right. And Silicon Ranch has also asked, does it have to be a bond? Can it be a letter of credit? Can it be, and our code does allow for us to decide alternative forms of security. When I first asked the question, again, because it's not been done before, I asked the question of the PA's office, we kind of immediately went to a bond. Does it have to be a bond? Can it be, some other alternative form of security, so that it's not, again, $500,000 every single year that, like I've argued before, is just going to get rolled right back up into, whatever that power purchase agreement is,
I'm okay with a letter of security or a letter of credit or that amount.
Do they have other projects that they have? I mean, what's their financial status? Do they have
Oh,
assets other places?
Yeah. They have another project that they're proposing in the county. They have land that they've tied up just outside of Freda, but unfortunately it's kind of mixed in between the city of Freda and Grant County. So Silicon Ranch, they Invenergy too. They both check out. I've not done a deep dive on their financial wherewithal, but they are both legitimate developers that have a long track record.
Do we, as a county, do we get any kind of a benefit from this, other than they bring
Do we
power?
do the utility tax credit or a utility?
Yeah, so I mean, the benefit,
Federal.
right now, the benefit is, I mean, it's generating permit revenue. Unfortunately, through this long session, we weren't able to get the taxes worked out. There was going to be nameplate rating tax reform, or right now it's personal property taxes, which is not a good situation for the county because it rapidly it's high at the very beginning, but then it depreciates like a rocket, right? So they were working on some reform to that, some nameplate reform that would have been great to get worked out. It'll be back next year. Wasac was working hard on that one. But there is some tax generation. They talk about local jobs, things like that. But it's been my experience that the contractors that roll through here, they bring the labor force with them.
So we are probably a state that offers a tax exemption for solar, just because for Washington. Otherwise, we have sales tax. We'll have property tax because it increases the value of the property.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do get a utility tax. That would be a
Sometimes.
general question.
Yeah, sometimes. It really boils down to the community benefit agreements. That's what really needs to be ironed out. And it's a topic that comes up over and over and over again. Something that we're working on in and amongst a number of things, but if it doesn't necessarily have to be a bond, if we want to look at alternative
Well, that was just mine.
letter.
Because we've used the letter of credit and it's,
Have we?
no, I mean, personally,
Yeah.
we have, and I think some of the bigger,
Yeah.
because your bank is back in that too. I mean, it's not just you and
Yeah.
no agreement. Rob? Kevin?
I mean, if the bank's willing to sign it, I wouldn't have a problem with that, as long as the bank's willing, or the investors are willing to sign it. I just want to make sure we're protected.
Yeah.
I'd rather get a percentage of the pie every month, though.
Well, we might. We need to ask Daryl on that because I thought we had to get a utility tax.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to explore that with Daryl.
I mean, if we are getting a benefit from it, that's great. I just want to make sure we don't end up with a mess that we.
Are you just estimating that as the 5% premium for that bond, or what do you?
In
get
time,
500 grand back just from them?
No. So I was able to speak at a siting conference and polled a number of developers, and the average is 2.4 to 4%. And so I went on the high side, and then confirmed that in my conversation last week with the project manager for Silicon Ranch. And the bond, so when we work through these numbers, the bond at this lower was $174,000 at the 4.7.
So, I mean, is there a way that we can bond it and they would pay us $250,000?
Not
Probably
sure.
Conflict of interest,
I'm not.
but there might be something.
I'm not.
Just thinking because they bond it, the county doesn't get anything from the bond. They go bankrupt. The county doesn't get the money from the bond anyways.
Right.
So why not?
Us secure it?
I mean, that's essentially what you're doing, so I don't know why it would be a
Right.
conflict, because you are securing there. But then you'd also have to be holding that amount of money for it.
And you're just talking about, possibly just setting it aside in escrow or something
Yeah.
to, in the event, it were to hit end of life, or,
Yeah, but if something happened, they walked away the first year, you have, what, $175,000 or $200,000, it doesn't come near covered.
Right.
I don't think they're putting $100 million in the ground and walking away the first year, though.
and that's the argument.
That'd be wild.
That's the argument, or, depending on the power purchase agreement, and again, I don't know what that power purchase agreement looks like, but Invenergy has argued that if they are insolvent, even in year 2, somebody is going to walk in behind them and get a hell of a deal. They're going to walk in and grab this thing 50 cents on the dollar with a killer power purchase agreement with the PUD and make money hand over fist. Because it's
The only problem I see is if they were to walk away in, say, in year 2, Seavercroft's now, I mean, they own the property. So then it's up to them as to what they do with it. I don't know what that looks like. I mean, in the rental business, you'd have to do an unlawful detainer and, things like that. There's a court process. I just don't know what that would look like.
right.
I don't know.
Well, some entities do a bond or put so much money in your, like an account, the savings account, a guaranteed account that you can't touch. It's $100,000, instead of a bond, you just
Yeah.
Right.
put that money in. There's probably more options. I just don't do a whole lot of bonding, and so I need to do a little research here, look into it.
And I don't either. It's just,
I didn't realize it was so expensive. I thought it was a one and done. I didn't realize it was annually.
I get a sizable amount of pushback. So it's obviously something that we need to solve.
Could we check with some of the other places that have these?
At the same time, though, the whole point of it was because we didn't necessarily want it. So it doesn't, like, to me, from our original decision, I don't really care. You know what I mean? It's like, if they do put 2,000 acres in solar, what's that going to cost to total net acres? Another 5 to 6 to 8 to 10 to 12,000 acres of not usable now.
Yeah.
So at the same time, you're giving up 10,000 acres for a solar farm of your future developable ground.
Right.
So, a lot of places that you're going to compare to in Georgia or whatever probably don't have shrub step mitigation. So I don't think it's even comparable. So I think the whole point of how restrictive it was in the beginning was just, a lot of it was Danny just not liking it, plus knowing, if it is 8-1, I mean, that's 16,000 acres then at that point. So 16,000 acres given up for a private company to sell solar to California doesn't really do anything for people in Grant County.
There's got to be some kind of income generating stream in my
I
mind
emailed Darryl, so
for
we'll get
Grant County.
Darryl, if he's around, he'll answer it.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I
Sounds
guess
like fun, Jim.
to be continued, I guess.
Yeah, sorry, I wish I could just have a great answer, we can pick it out, but it sounds like the letter of credit would be an easier option than going through the bond.
Okay, they being Silicon Ranch are exploring other options as well.
Okay,
How many acres is this one?
This is 1,200 under site control to be pared down to 860 behind a fence,
And then how many mitigated acres?
860,
So it's just 1-to-1.
856.
How'd you get away with 1-to-1?
Oh, it's a 2-to-1.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a 2-to-1.
So we haven't gotten the new numbers yet.
No, the WDFW guidance, it's not out yet,
Okay.
not until maybe the end of July.
Okay.
While we wait. I did see that the president said we could sell like 1% of our, in Washington State, 0.5%, 1%. Well, I mean, it was a lot of acres that we could sell, but Cantwell, they didn't think Cantwell would be in favor of it or any of our legislatures.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Someday we're gonna have an answer on this, and it'll be like, let's go this way.
Good morning, it's 9:33 a.m. and we are here for a commissioner's office update.
Good morning.
Hello.
First off, pending decision spreadsheet. I don't think it's changed in quite some time.
Fine, yep. Okay, me.
Right, there you go. Okay. Review of upcoming public hearings.
None this week. You have 3 next week, I believe, 3 or 4.
And those are on the website for you to review ahead of time. Review of this week's meetings. Did you have any questions about your agenda today and tomorrow and this week? You said PMRT was canceled?
Oh, yes, Decorah reached out, requesting cancel PMRT. So then you have a humongous chunk of time from 11:30 to 1:45. 1:45 is the commissioner's work session. Just throw that out there. In case you were just really excited about that 15-minute meeting at 1:45 this
Yeah,
afternoon.
we could just cancel it.
You do have another work session this morning at 10:15.
Yeah. So I would be fine canceling 1:45. Can I get a second opinion?
I will.
They really want a 3-hour break for a 15-minute meeting.
Could we change the, could we
No, we
change,
can't.
no, probably can't, huh?
We cannot unless it's 24 hours.
That's the only other meeting that you would have this afternoon, is that one.
So we will
15-minute
be
meeting.
Vigilant in our 10:15 to 10:30 meeting, get everything on the table. We'll talk fast.
Thank you for the heads up.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any other questions about your agenda for this week? About any of the meetings?
No, just my Thursday task force meeting.
Yes.
Highly probable I will not be present.
Okay. LDC Inc. will be present to give the quick
We'll go
rundown.
over.
Yes.
I'll be
Yep.
online, but that's a rough day.
Well, if you are able to just log on at the beginning and we can just
Yeah, I'll get on
knock
for a little
out.
time probably.
Okay. So just for voting on like the approval of the bylaws and the lived experience.
Okay. Boards and committees update, ma'am.
There's not an insane amount of the boards and committees. Brule Hoskins is resigning from LTAC, being removed from LTAC. She no longer fits the requirement as a ratepayer since she no longer owns the microtel.
Manages it.
huh?
She doesn't manage it anymore.
Right, yes, sorry. She said that they're hoping to break ground next year on a microtel in Ephrata, but as of right now, she is not a ratepayer. I did reach out asking if she maybe fit that criteria in some other way, and she said no, that she didn't, and that she was fine, totally understands. and steps down from LTAC. So her letter of appreciation for her service is on consent this week. We've opened the application period for that third ratepayer position. We have already received one application from, his name is Jedediah, I believe, Jeremiah. It's something like that. He is the owner of what used to be the Microtel down in George, is now a Holiday Inn and Express. So he has applied for that. So we'll see what else we get.
And did you know, I guess I can pull it up, the breakdown on the boards for LTAC, the counties, or the districts?
Yeah, I can probably figure it out. It's Kevin Danby, District 1, Goldie, District 1, Lori, District 2, then Meesburg would be your District 3, Microtel would be 3. Another grant recipient. There's only one more. Evan, Lori, and
Used to be the coroner's brother-in-law, but I thought he stepped down.
I don't remember. Without
3
seeing it in front of
ratepayers
me.
and 3
Yep.
grant recipients, and then me. Lori, Kevin, and what other event comes here?
It's a camp. Correct, isn't
No,
it?
that's Goldie and Marilyn. Well, it was Brulé. It was another rate. Well,
Relay was right there,
yeah. 1, 2, 3. Goldie,
Oh.
Brulé, Harriet.
Yes. Quincy Historical Society. So
So you have a grant recipient in each district and then 2
So it's almost
ratepayers
like
in
District
District
2
3.
needs somebody.
Somebody for what?
Well, it looks like District 3 is pretty heavy. District 1 has 2, District 2 has 1, and District 3 has 3.
Yeah, District 2 doesn't have any. I guess there's one campground, that golf course. They have a campground, Warden Golf
But I
Course.
would say that District 3 is probably your number one contributor
Yeah,
to.
well, yeah, because
Okay.
of the gorge.
then you have Rob, who's District 2.
Yeah, so. I don't know, they're all pretty, level in their thinking for the most part. They're obviously pro their own stuff too. I don't think you're gonna fix that with any change up.
The other question that I had for you guys, I've talked about it with Kevin a little bit. We had one of the potential proposers for the tourism publishing group. One of them reached out to members of tourism to try to ask questions about the RFP and then called us, and he sent his information to tourism. I think it's actually an employee of the lady that's wanting to do the proposal. It was a whole lot of back and forth. But in the RFP, it says that if you have questions about the proposal, you're supposed to reach out to me. This guy, it seems that he was not given clear direction when he was told to reach out. And so he just reached out to members of tourism and sent his information and said flat out that he wanted to ask them about the RFP. They did not respond. I did email all of tourism and said, don't respond to these people. But they're asking if they are still eligible to submit a proposal or if they would be disqualified since they didn't follow the correct procedures for reaching out. I know Kevin had said that he was fine with them submitting a proposal, but I wanted to check with all 3 commissioners before giving them a final answer.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Cindy? Okay. I think that's fine for that.
Calendar invitations, this was in the file too, along with the other two.
Oh, yes. Kirk Pearson, who is the new Washington State Director for USDA's Office of Rural Development, wants to have a meeting with you guys just to introduce himself. So Barb and I are working on getting that scheduled. It'll happen sometime in July. Just an FYI, that's coming up. And then, Rob, I got your email about the Community Leadership Roundtable. Is that something that should be forwarded to Kevin and Cindy for them to attend also? Or is that something that you typically just attend?
Well, normally I just attended it, but now Kevin is in Moses Lake area also. Kind of just a Moses Lake meeting, really. Doesn't have any focus on any other parts of the county for the most part. When is that one?
It is July 30th. So that's the other thing, is that it starts in the middle of that tourism master plan workshop. Do you want me to plan on being there for the duration of that?
4 to 5, yeah.
And then, sorry, did you want us to forward that to Kevin also?
Yeah, we'll just have to advertise it if we're both gonna be there. And it's not public, and there's no way to make it public.
It's not a Grant County meeting, you're just attending, as long as you don't talk county business.
You do talk county business. You don't make decisions, but you do give updates, answer questions. So your call on that, Barb.
And we can talk about that, I'll look into that. I would
But you
always,
know, July 30th, who knows? That's like one trailer breakdown in Southern Oregon, and I'm not there, so I would just put him down.
Months away.
a month and a week.
It's 1 month, my man. 1 month.
Wow.
August is a month away. I keep getting the notifications. XYZ Fair is 22 days away. I'm like, oh God.
I'll forward that to you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be looking forward to it.
Okay. Okay.
Next is Board of Equalization update. Cindy mentioned to you last week that Richard Lights had reached out to to you. I still haven't received the letter yet.
I actually called Richard, he did send an email.
Okay.
Called Richard, he's gonna get, some things together, so he's working on a letter. And, yeah, then a little follow-up, so that's when I emailed you that the Board of EEG voted, Kevin, you may have been on there, a couple years ago, 2 years ago, they voted that they don't need representation from each commissioner district.
Yeah, well, the thought process there is that the current board had, and the alternates that were there, we had pretty good representation from the people that were on the BOE. We felt weren't just, it wasn't just a concern about one area or one part of the county. And there's real estate people that are on there that, you know, they're sell real estate all over the county. So we felt that it was pretty well covered throughout the county. So I think that was the reasoning behind our.
And I think we supported that decision at the time because Kevin was in District 2 seat, but he was District 1. And Jerry had asked me if I had any issues not being represented, and I felt like, I mean, he's a realtor.
Well, now
He lives in Moses Lake,
And now Brandon's on there,
which Brandon's District 1, but he lives in Moses Lake.
but now he's moving. So
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's moved, so he'll be District 2.
he'll be District 2.
Yeah, so now it should be equally represented.
I looked in past minutes and I couldn't find anything, an individual vote in their minutes. I couldn't find anything.
I think it was just a discussion that we had.
And I did reach out to the chair, Jim Brakebill, and he says he couldn't think of anything either and invited you to give him a call if you'd like to
Okay.
discuss that.
No, thank you for looking into
Yeah.
this.
You bet.
Yeah, and
So-
you know, I'm a huge supporter of every district being represented.
Yeah,
So-
no, and I appreciate that because, you know, we want to make sure our constituents are taken care of. But I feel like, you know, we sell, as a realtor, we sell throughout the county. doesn't matter what district, we don't even think of districts, we think of location and cities and towns. So it didn't,
I had asked Mr. Lights to send an actual official letter of resignation. That I haven't received yet
Yeah, he
either.
said he'll work on it.
Okay. Do you want to move forward with looking for his replacement now or wait till the resignation letter comes in?
I don't see that there's anything urgent. I think we can wait till we get it. Because we already have 2 alternates right now,
Correct.
so it's not that critical.
Rob, Cindy?
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think we should wait until we get the letter.
Okay.
You never know, he may change his mind.
Okay.
Again, I'm not trusting a verbal. I would like to have it in writing.
We will wait on that, and I'll wait for that letter to come in. It's time, July 1st, for your elected official and department head partnership switcheroo. So starting July 1st, Rob, your department heads will be Public Works, New Hope, and Fairgrounds. Your elected officials will be Superior Court, District Court, and Clerk's Office. Cindy, you'll have Development Services, Renew, and Central Services. And your electeds, the Treasurer, Auditor, and Sheriff. And Kevin, you will have Human Resources, Juvenile, and Public Defense. And the Coroner's Office, the Prosecutor, and Assessor. So I'll get this email sent out to you so you'll know who your partnership is. Does that make sense what that is? So you're to reach out to your people, and keep that line of communication open.
10-4.
Who are my departments?
Departments Public Works, New Hope, and Fairgrounds.
Oh, got it.
Okay. We received another response on Friday. Caitlin forwarded it to you from the Republican Party about the process coming up. So it looks like it's going to still, where they're going to have a meeting on July 12th. And then the board will not be able to work on it until after that. So we have tentative on the calendar, July 14th and 15th for the board to have interviews or whatever process you would like to hold. So I guess, is there anything that you want staff to do? We're just waiting until July. As far as I know. Okay. I just want to bring that to your attention in case you hadn't seen the email. You were supposed to have a veteran services update today, but Tony has called in sick.
Tony's sick today.
I feel like I'm getting sick too.
It's going around our office, I know.
Blowing my nose all night.
Miss Caitlin, anything else?
Okay, we do have something, just real quick, Jen's not gonna join us. The budget, I just pulled up his budget, and it looks like if we pay for the, because they don't need a budget extension to hire a contract.
Counselor.
Yes. We will be basically utilizing funds that are supposed to go to veterans, which I mean, I know the counseling services, therapy, but there's a little bit in like other professional services, but I mean, we're cutting into what should be going directly to like housing or.
I think Tony's discussion on that will be in recent events of the veteran who killed his children. There's a great, huge need for veterans' mental health care.
Well, I'm wondering
Well,
if,
yeah, there
Yeah.
is, but the question is, do we have it in the budget for that?
I think his,
Counselor.
what do you call it, the extra funds has quite a bit in there. What do you call that? The reserve
but
fund
if we
for
didn't
that?
budget for them, I'm looking, if we didn't budget for the reserve, he can't spend the reserve. So
Then you'd have
that's
to have a
where-
budget extension, probably.
Yeah, and he said without a budget, Jerry, I was reading the letter from Jerry. So just looking at what they have in their budget, they don't have a lot of professional services, I think like 3,000 miscellaneous. So that's where I was trying to figure out
Where
where.
it could come from.
There's utilities, motel, direct VA assistance, burial.
Yeah, because I've had several of those burial.
But I'd like to talk to Dell, yeah, and just see, because Dell has a lot more money than he used to have. And that may be something we could work with Dell, and that's, I mean, I hate to take, I know it's for veterans, but we have a surplus of funds in another category.
Somewhere else, or pay it out of somewhere else.
Yeah, kind of work with Dell on that, because that fits the category. Or have, yeah.
We can have, if Tony's back, he could call in tomorrow and if you have any questions. I'll send him a Teams message for tomorrow. You have anything? That's it. Any questions for staff?
No, I just appreciate what you guys do.
Yes, I do have
Master
it.
plan update, is that just with them or is that in here?
The one during lunch or the
Yeah.
one at the end of the day?
Lunchtime?
Lunchtime is just you and I
That's
with,
the
with
amount?
him. Yes.
Okay.
And then end of the day one is his official briefing with
He's
the
gonna mail
commissioners.
the deals.
The things that he's printed, I think he said he was going to bring them tomorrow.
Oh, he's
Uh,
coming.
Yes.
Hold on.
And from judging by his response, it sounds like he had not printed them yet. And so he'll be using Emily's design, I believe, for both the postcards and the
Okay,
8x11s.
cool.
That's the one that was picked, Emily's.
Yes.
I liked Emily's.
That's cute.
And then I did send him the
Caitlin said
request
I might
for
have missed a couple, but
Roger. What?
you had said I might have missed a couple of what they looked like. A couple of the other ones.
It doesn't matter. That's fine.
I liked yours, how red and vibrant
Yeah, I
the
like the
colors on
colors
that.
on hers the most.
Yeah.
But
But Emily's has a big star that says $250, and
Yeah,
that is
that
going to
got
draw a
me.
lot of people. Yeah. But I did send I sent Tom back with the request that you had said about the larger prints also. So we'll see if he was able to get those printed over the weekend. But if not, he'll send those on later, I'm sure.
I mean, those we could use at events and at fairgrounds and try to, actually get people traveling. We're having issues getting the visitor to do the survey. I think we're doing pretty good.
Did you look at those results?
No.
Okay, as somebody that has a mild opinion, I feel that the way the questions were worded in the resident survey skewed the results of the data gathered.
Yeah, the
It's-
questions were weird.
So he had said that we could make changes to the visitor survey since we have not gotten very many
Many, yeah.
responses, but
Hard because that's what they do, so when they're worded weird, are they worded weird for a purpose? I don't know. I hate to just, oh, well, I know better than you. I've never done this before. But yeah, reading them, I was confused.
Are these the visitor ones that we're supposed to be passing out?
no, commissioners have passed them out. That reminds me, we need to look at that spreadsheet to find out what businesses have been given the visitor surveys.
Okay.
And then maybe sometime, I'll put something together this afternoon and then maybe tomorrow, sometime during that meeting with Tom before he briefs the commissioners, maybe we can go over that memo that he's wanting sent out. It's just a lot of
Mhm.
words.
Yeah, I remember. And put that in AI and tell them to make it 50 words. It's too many words.
I have a question on the tourism. I was looking at I don't know if a conference. Did you?
The state of Washington tourism one on consent,
Mhm.
yes.
It just seemed a bit pricey. Did they get the government rate for the hotel rooms or?
I think it's the conference rate for the hotel. So they have not purchased anything yet. They were asking about going, and I told them that since you guys are their designated, department head elected official, that my recommendation to them was to put it on consent. So
Okay. Well, it asks for government rates. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it doesn't even apply when you're going to a conference. But government rate, I'm surprised how few people request that.
I was surprised that like the Davenport no longer has a government rate.
oh well, if it's that's where it's at.
Are you sure?
It's at the Davenport Grand.
I tried recently. Unless they just didn't want to give it to me.
Sometimes it depends on the timing
Yeah.
or the weekend, or
I think it was like a Thursday or a Sunday.
sometimes they don't do weekends.
But if they have their county, they're usually only like.
Yeah. She goes, yeah, we don't have government rates anymore. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. That's what, unless the girl up front who told me didn't know. So you never know. There's always another story. Seems.
Let me look and see because.
Oh, it's at the Davenport?
It's at the Davenport Grand. Yes.
That is a
And they're really good
pricey
hotels.
place.
Isn't that the one with the Peacock Lounge? Like the little.
There's two Davenports up there, so I think I was going to.
Historic is the Peacock.
That's
When is the conference?
It's in October. I believe it's the 8th through the 10th.
I want to go to the Peacock
I don't think there's real peacocks there, which I'm kind of a bummer. Why would you call it that then? But I think there's like
That's what I
a
thought when I went there too. I'm like, this is
there's like a mosaic.
underwhelming.
There's a mosaic of a peacock or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, we have 1 minute. Do you
Downstairs.
She should be.
Nothing else? We'll recess for 1 minute. Good morning, it's 10:02 a.m. and we are here for a CHG Grant Fund usage meeting with Terry Stockton.
Good morning. As you all know, the CHG grant, the current one, is getting ready to end of this month, and the new cycle start July 1st. As I was going through some of the reimbursements, I noticed that Hope Source was being allowed to be reimbursed for charges from another county on the Grant County grant. So I contacted Commerce to see if that was something that was allowed, and they said it was up to the county or the lead grantee to make that decision. I also contacted Chelan County and talked with Amber, their grant manager and grant writer. They actually did not renew their last contract with Hope Source because of the same issue. They did an audit and found that they were pooling all of their operation line item across multiple counties.
Rebecca is online now for this update.
Okay. So my question is, do we want to add something to our contract with Hope Source, because they have applied for the newest grant cycle for this grant that states that the money has to be spent within the county? I don't know if, how that's going to work with the way that their billing process. I'm assuming they are using the same process for all of their line items on these grants. But,
Well, on those, like, you're supposed to be tracking, so when you have to track grants, for different grants, I
Mhm.
don't know why they're not able to track, kind of have the same standard that the rest of us, but No, they are, and they have in the past, they've reached out, we had some CHG funding that we were not gonna utilize at the very end, they asked if they could utilize it,
Mm-hmm.
and the commissioners agreed that they could. So that's been the only time, but no, I mean, that's basically Grant County's money,
Mm-hmm.
should be spent in Grant County. And then my question, did they actually, are they overseeing the whole grant, or did the Grant County sign? They're not taking
No.
over our CHG?
No,
Okay.
no. Grant County, we have the money.
Okay.
But they are the lead grantees on the Kittitas CHG funding and the Adams County. So I questioned it because if they're already getting grant funding for those counties, why are they using Grant County funds to help pay for, electricity and lease agreements and stuff out of Kittitas County?
Yeah, they should be, so they need to actually pay Grant County back for those.
But we don't have anything in our contract that says that they can't.
Well,
That's why I'm thinking we need to have something in our contract that states that they have to use the Grant County funding for Grant County costs and no
because that
other.
money is allocated to us. Yeah, it just seems like Rebecca is, I guess we can have it in our contract, but we've never given them permission.
Chelan County said they had to finish out their last contract with them because they did not have that in theirs as well. And then once they added that, they didn't renew with them for that newest contract.
So have we talked to Renew about why they're doing that?
It's with Hope Source.
I hope so.
No, I have not. I just realized this was going on Wednesday. So,
So we've got Rebecca. I just have a question for Rebecca. I don't know if people will look at it. It just seems that it was money that was supposed to come to Grant County and it's leaving our county. So
As far as I'm aware, unless there was a stipulation in the contract, as far as I'm aware, yeah, they were, as long as they were using it in accordance with whatever stipulations were in the contract, I don't see a way to ask them to pay it back. Um, so I think going forward, if you want to have that stipulation in the contract, I've also been working with Carrie on updating our language that to have like a payback requirement if they don't use the money in accordance with the grant. So I think moving forward, if you want to continue to award this grant to Hope Source, I think it would need the requirement that the monies be used um, for things within the county, for Grant County. And then, like I said, I've been working with Carrie on updating language in our grants to make sure that they do have language that we can require the recipient to pay back any monies that they do not use in accordance with the grant.
and do we need to contract with Hope Source for any, do we have a grant that they're the only ones that administer it?
no.
Okay.
No, we're passed through for all of them. But they have applied for the upcoming CHG grant. So,
Okay, and that won't go, because typically.
no,
that
it comes here.
It goes
Yeah.
here and then it
Mhm.
goes to the housing authority. Or,
No. With the CHG, they have added the emergency housing funding with it,
okay,
which that is the category that Hope Source is allowed to use.
and what was it? Emergency?
Emergency housing fund.
Okay.
And so it's the same as all the other grants. They send me their invoices for reimbursement and then I do my process. So no, they don't see any money beforehand. I mean, we reimburse them for what they have sent in, but from what I can
With Chelan
tell.
County, did they spend that money in Grant County and Kittitas, or is it all just spent in Kittitas?
She didn't specify. She just noticed that when they did the audit, it was being pooled across multiple counties. So I'm assuming maybe Kittitas, Grant, and Adams. I don't know. But. And I don't think that was their first incident with Hope Source in trying to reimburse for things that, when Janice was still here, she contacted Chelan County about a reimbursement on something that, I don't remember exactly what it was, but Hope Source was not contracted with this company that was doing the services. And Chelan County had found that out as well and decided they weren't going to renew with that grant as well. So.
Well, I definitely think we need a payback option and the funds used only in Grant County. And if we could maybe not contract with them, might be the best route. But I don't know who would do the emergency housing.
Well,
Who would
and
do that? Are they
well,
the ones in the-
that one, it's separated into different categories, line items. So City of Moses Lake is also putting in for that part of the grant as well for the outreach stuff. The only thing is, I have a feeling that they're going to contract, outsource it to Hope Source for the outreach stuff. So I think a lot of it's going to depend on, if we add in a new clause or something to the agreement, whether or not they may pull their application and say, no, this is too much for us to keep track of. This is how we do our billing. And
Was the City of Moses Lake aware that
I have not spoke with Liz yet about it, no.
they may have something to say about it as well?
Mm-hmm. I needed some guidance on if we needed
And that's
to
just
add
me. I don't know
that.
what cabinet-
I would agree. I mean, I think if it's,
Hey, I sent 2 words. That's it. I agree.
Hello, no?
What I say?
Hello and
Said
no?
Hello, no.
Okay, well,
All right. So add something to the agreement as to,
yeah.
okay. Because I have those agreements that are I'm gonna start working on those as soon as Commerce gets me final budget numbers.
Is there anything else you'd recommend, Rebecca?
No, and I'm not aware of the grant process. I'm assuming there's a separate process for awarding the grant. So that would just be up to the commissioners when they're considering that.
Thank you for your input. Greatly appreciated. And Carrie, thank you for catching this. So.
Yeah, no problem. It's like, Kittitas County is not our county, but then, it makes me wonder how much of our grant for the sleep center was actually spent on the sleep center.
Yeah.
Did the city just submit those or did they submit it
Well,
directly to you?
Hope Source submits directly to me, but I
Okay.
also get the sleep center stuff. What Hope Source is sending me is mostly salaries and wages, and then some operations stuff, which is the, Kittitas County PUD and that kind of thing. City of Moses Lake, they pay the utilities and everything on their end
Okay.
of that grant. So there's been no issue with what City of Moses Lake has sent me. It's just, you start seeing, 50 to 100 employee salary and wages, and it's like in 1 month for the sleep center. It's questionable.
Very,
So,
yes.
okay, that was all I had.
thank you, Carrie.
Thanks for being on, Rebecca.
Thank you,
for joining
Rebecca.
us.
We will go into a 1-minute recess until we are back with Commissioner work session. phone. Good morning, it's 10:15 a.m. and we are here for our commissioner work session. Do we have any items that need discussed today? I don't have any. We have our pending decisions, however, there is nothing new on there.
I did talk to one person that was happy about West Shore Drive over the weekend.
Write that down.
Yeah. Thought that was good. He said that they've seen more people running and using the sidewalk than ever before,
I believe that.
and they like it.
Yeah, I like that.
So I think at the end of the day, it'll be good.
I would like to see more paths and trails.
Well, it's a lot safer, having sidewalks
Yeah.
and curbs.
The only downside to paths and trails is, you get more unwanted visitors that walk down that trail to that new spot they never had walked to before. But it's something that we're definitely missing, is that connectivity for exercise type transportation.
And that was just a call from a disgruntled homeowner out in Quincy Place out in Lakeview, I'm assuming. Must have something to do with his motorhome that's parked on the side of the road that his tenant has become a problem. So
Okay, so I contacted the Desert Air HOA president, or manager, to see if they could turn off the water. The absentee, so we'll see if, because we don't really do sewage. I mean, that's a health district, so the health district, I'm
Yeah.
surprised they haven't ordered the water to be.
Well, I'm gonna be over there this afternoon, so I just emailed Stephanie to see if I can meet with her about
Yeah,
that.
no, the landowner has the opportunity to clean up the neighbor's raw sewage that's been coming
So
over there, so.
I'm gonna question her why it hasn't been red tagged or something.
No, it's probably just something minor, like a toilet it's just running, something is going on there.
Their drain fields failed.
Yeah, and that usually happens if you have a running toilet. That's what happened to the individual that requested, that flooded the sidewalk, that was. You didn't know that a running toilet,
Would saturate his drain field.
like I didn't know, because it was like for a year or two.
So did they get that situation straightened out? Or?
I think, talked to him, he could have just dug that one area, but it sounds like he has to put a whole new drain field in.
I'll ask Stephanie about that one as well.
Yeah, ask that one. And the Eagle property that we just cleaned up, they are now moving trailers into the back Eagle down in Desert Air, south of Desert Air. They're putting trailers now kind of in, they must have a little bit of a drop. They've moved, relocated.
Still on the same property though.
And it looks like they have to access PUD property to get there. I'm assuming the PUD would also be involved.
Are the Ingles out of area owners?
I think the daughter was the one living on the property.
Oh,
But, yeah, we did ask if they did it again, we would, just
build a
in case
trespass.
clean it up, so.
Yeah, because I know the Indian property out there, they've been keeping pretty close tabs on that one, and they've thrown people out there and arrested them for trespassing for coming back. So,
I'll send it to maybe Josh. And Daryl said we will not be getting a utility tax because it's a private solar company, but we would remind him to tell us when he comes in for his update. He'll tell us what revenue we are receiving from them.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them here in FSEC that I'm reading.
So it sounds like we need to set up the reappointments for the 3 attorneys. Did the Republican Party send us a list of the 3 applicants?
That was, what Barb was talking about earlier, is that they had said in their response that they would not be sending the names until after they had had their meeting on July 12th.
Okay,
So they're sticking to their plans as far as having
so we can call them A, B, and C,
the
Republican
Republican
A,
Party.
B, and C, so we can quickly vet them, and we could get a committee together. We could probably start working on a committee, so we're ready to go when,
Is that typically what you do, the 3 commissioners and then?
yeah, and we have somebody from the, like, the
district court,
county,
superior court?
the county bar association. We could have somebody from the Republican Party, probably somebody from the prosecutor's office, whether it's Kevin or Garth or I think those are the last 2. Angus isn't even around. Maybe somebody from, I just think a wide range, so if
Might be a
you're,
good idea to have Garth on that committee and then
maybe Brad,
Brett, yeah.
you could possibly throw a judge in there. I mean, it's not,
No, I think it'd be a good idea.
I just don't want the group huge, but when you have when you're appointing an elected official, it's kind of nice to have a little.
Well, yeah,
So-
it's better to have somebody that's experienced in that arena than, I mean, I'm not the expert.
What are you thinking, Rob?
We have the dates set tentatively already. But yeah, I would include a few different people. It's hard to know who.
What would I mean, I guess we can look at, let me ask, Decor May, when we,
Like, I would like the core to be there.
yeah, definitely HR.
I'd like to see,
Well, we didn't even interview Kevin because he was the only applicant, but in the past, we've had some people like the Grant County Bar Association, you know, kind of all the offices that are impacted, they do have.
and 2 of them that put in were mad that they didn't get a shot at it when he was appointed.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they not submit their name? Because we were told.
Said that they weren't told that it was even going on, and that the only advertisement was in the Ephrata paper.
Oh.
I heard that from 2 different people. I was like,
No, it could be.
But yeah, I would mean it'd be cool to even include, I don't know, like Gwen or Anna or something that's already been through it. I mean, they both
Well, you do
interviewed with
district court
us.
and a superior court. I just, you know, I think we had 12 people. I don't think that, we're appointing an elected position, so I don't want to say the more the merrier, but I think the depth on our bench to do the interview, or the interview committee would be a wealth of help for us.
I agree. I think that would be a good idea.
We'll start working with HR and getting some committee members.
Then we'd do that in here. Awesome.
And it is open to the public. It's a public interview, but we can discuss an executive session and then when we're come up with the individual that it's in.
Public forum.
well, because when Angus Lee was appointed, they thought we did it. We voted behind closed doors and we came out of executive session and voted.
That's kind of the process.
I know, but- No, I know, because I've gotten in trouble for it and,
That is the process. If the
Yes.
public doesn't understand that, that doesn't make sense. Part of the process.
Well, the public won't understand either way, 'cause if you don't pick who, if the Republican Party puts it forward at number one and you don't pick them, well, then obviously half the people are gonna be upset about that, so.
will they come into, is that what they want to do, is rank them?
I don't know, I don't think
I
that's a
think
good
that's-
idea.
I think that's what they're thinking.
Yeah, I think that just hurts that candidate that gets ranked, that's my opinion, but.
They want to send us their recommendation, I guess is what it boils down to. But it's like,
Well-
my opinion of it is you have three people, that's all we need.
Kind of feeling the same way. I think Andrew was okay with that, as just somebody on the board who wanted to make sure they vetted their.
The committee was upset about it. So, I mean, I get that there's a process on the Republican Party side, but at the end of the day, you're still only gonna send us three people. And we make the decision. So what difference does it make? I could understand if it was 5 or 6 people and they had to interview those 5 or 6
To get them
people,
down to 3.
it'd be different. But we only have 3.
I did email Tony about reaching out to Dell. Because Dell should have, we have some funding opportunities with the opioid. Dell would be able to help them, help with some funding. I just am very reluctant to take funds away that should be going to vets.
Well, yeah, because,
To pay for. And I get that in a roundabout way, it is going to the vets, but
right, but there's other things that the veterans need too. Because I've seen a lot
if we
of
can do that, that would be huge.
burial funds.
Oh, Dell is on. Dell,
Next.
He's up next.
hey,
Yes,
I didn't know you're on. I always feel bad.
I just came on.
Okay, Tony from Veterans Services has requested, Mr. Bateman Rob Bateman has been a, kind of a therapist there, and the state
Yeah.
has that position. It ends in July. So I think it was 37,500. They don't want to exceed that amount. They're asking for the county, the Veterans Fund to pay for, therapeutic services for Mr. Bates, so I call him Bates. And I asked Tony to reach out to you to see if there were like opioid funding or some funding. So, because currently that money should be going to the vets directly, for housing and things, even though a service is it does go to the vets, but if we could somehow work with your office, or if you
Yeah.
had a source that we could, instead of
Yeah.
him, direct funds for the vets.
Please have him reach out.
Okay. Send him an email, so he is out today, but he should be reached out.
Okay.
Great segue. Yeah, I didn't know you were on.
Cindy, I also sent him an email inviting him to talk to you guys about it at your 8:30 consent review tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Barb.
You bet.
Between now and then, Dell can think of some financial vouchers for us.
We'll take a look at options.
Okay. Well, that is, I think, all I had on my list of things today.
Teresa Beals.
Mhm.
Oh, you are now free from 11:30 on today. Yeah. Unless there's something else. But
I just have to get
Yeah,
out
it's
of here
10:30.
if I'm gonna do that. All right, it is 10:30 a.m. and we will continue on with Del Anderson from Renew.
Morning, Commissioners.
Al?
Morning.
I only had 2 agenda items, and these are also on the consent agenda as well. I wanted to bring up the Yanazawa lease opportunity again. This is a commercial lease between us and Moberg Investment Properties. It's 7,200 square feet. It's a 10-year agreement, $2 a square foot, so comes out to the initial term is 14,400 a month. And this was also reviewed by legal, by Tom Gaines, as well as Blair for any insurance issues or things related to that. So I want to make sure that that was all discussed and reviewed as well. We are currently this year budgeted for $190,000 for additional leases. And so even though our term wouldn't begin until towards the end of the year, it does still fit within what we budgeted, and we would carry that over into next year as well. The current plan for the space is that we would like to put our recovery coaches there that access the emergency room. So when Samaritan moves, that they'll still have access to the emergency room. We'll have some of our crisis team there, so they will be able to have a good response time also to the emergency room. It's also close to each of the intersects of where 17, if you're coming from the Quincy area or Ephrata, May Valley, Royal City areas, you're coming through, or our crisis teams need to get out, really easy access to each of the different freeways to access all through Grant County. And then we're taking a look at the moving admin team, finance team, potentially quality teams. So those that are non-client facing to have a space that they'd be able to work. Why that's still a work in process is because this building is a shell, and we'd be working with Moberg Investment Properties on the floor plan. And so once a floor plan is finalized, we'll have a better idea of how many staff we could move. I'm hoping for about 25 that we can move that will free up office space in the current Moses Lake office, as well as, if you've seen our parking lot, there's nowhere for clients to park. And so this will free up another 20, 25 spots there in our current parking lot for client services. And so this is an opportunity that we are looking forward to. Like I said, it's still a process of who will go, because we don't know for sure on the floor plan and how many offices and cubicle spaces there will be, but our hope is to get at least 25 individuals there. The reason we're looking also for this, I just mentioned, was that we really want, with Samaritan moving, we want to be able to still access the ER and have a really good response time with our crisis teams. It also gives a way for the crisis team to be able to be out in the community. But we're also looking at this as those positions that we have on site that could potentially, that they don't see clients or aren't client facing, it would give a good office location as well for them, so we could expand the client services and utilize the current Moses Lake building as a clinical services only building. It would allow for future growth as well if we needed to change the model of service we provide, so that because of changes that are potentially coming to Medicaid, we need to increase the amount of services that we provide the self-pay private insurance individuals, so we could maintain the revenue levels that we currently have. So this agreement will be coming through consent, so you'll see that come through the consent meeting. But I just wanted to ask if you had any further questions or any other concerns you need me to address.
No, because you said you had funding that you could pay rent, but you could not use it for a brick and mortar building on this. So I had no questions.
Correct.
To do 10 years,
Rob, I didn't hear you.
you have to do a 10-year lease.
We did 10 years because that includes the allocation for the floor plan build out. And also, I think the potential for us to be there long term, being there across from the hospital, I think is helpful. So that is why we agreed to the 10-year. If we did discuss potentially the 5-year, but doing that, we lost the the build out for, and so that's what we were trying to keep, was those costs down of having the floor plan built out, specific to what we were wanting.
I have no other questions on that.
Okay, yeah, and related to the funding, typically Medicaid funds, you have to meet your service obligation to the Medicaid funds. They aren't typically used for purchases or build outs. As time goes on and you meet those obligations, then some of those restrictions get lifted. So those are things I want to look into. So for the future, there may be those opportunities to expand and build out. But those are things that we really have to get a really good understanding of finances and when Medicaid restrictions get lifted once obligations are met. So there's future potential. The other item I have coming through consent is the amendment number 3 between DSHS, the Developmental Disabilities Administration, and our office. This is to complete the year. So this amendment gives us an additional $87,990 in funding. And then July 1st, we'll get a new contract. So this is funding we've been expecting. And it'll help us complete out this year for DDA funding. And then we'll be getting a new contract with them for the next year. I just wanted to let you know, and that as well has gone through our legal review with the legal team. So Rebecca's been great to stay on these things for us, and has been working terrifically with us on it. That's what I have for you this morning. Do you guys have anything for me? Cindy, please tell Tony to reach out. So we can have a discussion on any potential funding that we could help utilize for the veterans program.
Okay, thank you, Dale. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think there's some opportunity there.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Del.
Yep, you bet. You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
We will go into recess until 10:45 when we are back for fairgrounds update. Good morning, it's 10:45 a.m. and we
See you guys. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Update.
Bye. Oh, hold on. I'm logging in.
You're in.
I'm in. Sorry, I had a visitor, Becky Shea. She told me to tell you all hi, by the way.
Hello.
Morning.
What's new, Jim?
I don't have a lot. Everything went well last week with my little procedure, so that was good. I'm back today, and we've had a couple of interesting inquiries recently. An RV show wanting to come to the fairgrounds again. I'm working on that. And another horse event once a week-long time slot, which is really difficult for us to squeeze in, but I'm trying to squeeze it in sometime in July of 26 or 27. We made it through the demo derby okay, and the arena looks pretty good, although we're going to rock pick it just to make sure we move any pieces of cars that could still be in there. The paving projects went really well. The new pathway to center field and ADA access for bathroom 4 is looking good. And other than that, we're in pretty good shape. What's going on with all of you?
Not much, just working away.
Well, I encourage any of you to come over and take a tour of all the stuff we've been working on lately. I think the fencing contractor, in fact, is supposed to start either this week or next week. I'm not sure. And other than that, we're in pretty good shape. We have the outside crew and inside crew we got as seasonals are phenomenal. So that's really helped.
When's the bleachers, when do they show up?
They show up a week from today.
Next week.
The 30th is when they're supposed to show up. And I do know that Tom's got that person, the sales, I don't know if she's a sales rep or if she's the owner of the company. is going to come during fair so that she can talk to the rodeo association about their VIP boxes. They've got a very large plan, and I think they're overthinking the whole thing. And so we are expecting a kind of a prioritized list of things that they would like to see happen at the fairgrounds. And we just have to balance that with A, how much it's going to cost, and B, does it make business sense to do those things? We just weigh the fact that a project, if it's really expensive and it only gets used once a year, is it worth the money for the county to invest, or should they consider other sources of revenue, such as the state or whatever? We do have a tour with Tom Dent on Friday also, so Tom can see some of the projects. He specifically was the one that got the bleacher project going, so he's going to be here on Friday. If any of you want to come by on Friday, he will be here at 11 a.m. and it's myself and Tom Gaines taking him around. Other than that,
If I don't have anything going on Friday, I might stop by.
yeah. Hey, I saw your ad for somebody to work in a yard on one of your. Hard to find people to do that, isn't it?
Well, I thought I had a guy. You know, when you think you have a guy,
Yeah.
and then you call him and he says, oh yeah, I was busy. I'll be there next week. And then that guy never shows up again.
Never shows up.
I'm done.
Yeah.
So
I never heard how the air show went. We did loan them portacools, a tent, chairs, and tables. But I never heard. Rob, were you a concessionaire at the air show?
Yeah, it was pretty weak.
it looked like it was pretty dead to me when I was out there.
I can't run a placer report until tomorrow. It has to be 48 hours after the event, and then I can kind of see how they did as far as attendance goes. This was their first year without Terry being part of that, so I know that Rich Mueller and Kale were glad to have that next step and a new group kind of take the thing over. So
Yeah, it's just not good timing for air shows with the airstrikes taking place because that grounds all military pilots.
Yeah.
So it was just a bad turnout for planes. I don't know. It was pretty weak.
It was 2 days before the event. They made all the military guys they told them not to show up. They couldn't come.
oh well, that kind of makes sense since we're doing military actions.
So I think
Other than that, that's all it's really got. I got 2 doctor's appointments this week, just follow-ups, but other than that, that's it.
Jim, did you figure anything out on that people that are camping out on the lower part of the hill?
Well, I had the sheriff go through. We did have a person in the green parking lot camping, and so the sheriff escorted them out of here on Saturday morning and made a pass through the brush and didn't see anything. But I haven't gone out there yet, so I was going to take the side-by-side out later today after I get payroll done and kind of wander around a little bit.
Yeah, Zach Dompier says that they're kind of in that little valley in the sagebrush. Just on the other side of that DNR property.
Is it down towards Paxson or on the other side?
On the other side. On the
Over
west
by below the water tank.
Yeah.
So that our property stops at the fence line at the top of the hill.
Oh, so it's not on our property then. That's DNR then.
Yeah, it's but I'll wander over there and see, and I can always call the sheriff and just say, hey, there's some people camping below the water tank.
Okay.
On the do not rest, the DNR property.
Yeah, we actually had a full-blown tent set up in the green parking lot, and so we had to have the sheriff come in and there was definitely some paraphernalia and everything. So I got the crew on high alert just to be very careful if they're out picking stuff up.
Well, you know, they heard that we have the largest RV parking in the county, so
Yeah, The nice thing is we charge, so they can't camp for free. Yeah, there's no free camping. All right. Have a great week.
All right, you do the same.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
See ya.
We'll go into a quick recess until 11 a.m. when we come back for a risk and safety update. Good morning, it's 11 a.m. and we are here for a risk and safety update with Blair Koch.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to give you an update on claims and some updates on them. This morning, I just received a tort claim notice from public. It's regarding Public Works for road construction on Stratford Road. It'll be in your guys' email with some correspondence. I did have Shane Heston forward that on to WCRG and ask them to send a denial for it. The person's asking for windshield damage that we did some gravel work on it and for us not controlling it 24/7, which is something we can't do and enforce the speed 24/7 on those type of roads. Another one on 618, we had an employee's car get hit in the parking lot. So they talked to the employee. They said they talked to the person that hit them. They got the insurance information and everything like that. So I said, if they start having problems, let me know and I'll have WCRG step in to help out. I just want to make sure the employee was taken care of.
Was there another employee or?
No, it was a one of their clients. Yep. On the 17th, we had someone fall in the parking lot A. I had Commissioner Carter run up to my office and say, someone fell in the parking lot. Can you please help them?
Thank you for.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. So checked him out. Old elderly gentleman, cane broke. It just completely snapped in half and down he went. So checked him out. Ephrata Fire Department came and checked him out as well. He had no complaints. He was able to get up and walk around. They did sign a refusal. And I did get his name and information. So I did have a form filled out for him. But he was able to move. He had a walker and was able to move really well. On the 17th, claim 1736, which is the small claims when we were being sued for that. We're closing that claim just because it was thrown out and we're just to close that claim up. And then on the 12th, we had two Public Works trucks backing and they ran into each other while doing some paving. So no injuries, no damage, but it's just the importance of paying attention to know what's behind you when you're backing. So it's a learning experience and something I'll
Were
work
they
on.
both in reverse?
I don't know the 100% sure, but I will look into that more. But I know one of them was backing and didn't see the other one behind him. So I don't think so.
Okay.
I did update the ADA grievance form that was online to replace the person that it was to myself and change the form a little bit. So we have it in Spanish and in English. And so that will be put on the website hopefully shortly by TS. And with the new update on the website, I may try to just have an ADA section where we can have all the forms and that kind of stuff for anyone that has questions about the ADA on there. I was told that you guys wanted me to send out the WCRG CRS training day to the department heads and elected officials. So that was sent out last week. So I did send that out to all the elected officials and department heads. Haven't heard anything from anyone if they have questions on that or anything like that. But it should be a really good training day for anybody that wants to go to that. And I know our training is being used by local GovU and people are doing it. So that's a good thing. And then Wednesday this week, we do have the safety committee meeting. So work on making sure we have every department with a member and has a voice on the safety committee. So that's something I'm working on. So we're doing pretty well. We're getting a good group of people, but with it being via Zoom, we can get more people involved. So there's no reason. And that's all I have at this time. Any questions you guys have for me or anything you need me to do?
No, I think we're good. I don't have any.
Okay.
You're working on the safety committee plan?
That's, what do you mean by safety committee plan?
what we have on our pending decision.
Oh, that's the, yes, that's something we are working on, the accident prevention.
Accident prevention plan.
Yes, accident prevention program that is being worked on. It's being reviewed. As soon as it's to the point where it passes review, we'll send it to all the elected officials and department heads, have them review it. And then once I get that back, it will go to you guys for final approval, but it's close.
Barb, can you update the name on that for Caitlin, if Barb's gone?
Yes, I can get that updated.
So, yes. No, it's close. It just got to get final weigh-ins on people. But yeah.
Anything else for Blair? I was
No.
too quick.
You're doing such a good job. I don't have any questions.
I know, we can answer our questions right away when we run up there.
You know that? I try.
Is there anything that we should be working on or knowing or adding that we aren't?
No, right now we're working on Lexipol. We're going through Lexipol right now, getting the policies, procedures in place. We're going through it at a pretty good pace. The core, Gina and I, and then with the review committee does review them. So, you know, we're getting great help from the different departments we need help from when we get to certain policies. We'll be sending stuff to TS and to Public Works because it's involving vehicles. They review it and weigh in on it too before we submit it and go in the draft form and have the review committee do it. So it's been a good process to go through all the policies and procedures to get them all up to date and have them communicate well and not indicate anything. So that's been really good so far. So. If you want some fun, read those. Not like you guys don't have enough to do.
All right, well then, we will go into recess until 11:15 when we are back with the treasurer's office. Caitlin, can you remind Daryl of his 11:15, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, it is 11:15 a.m. and we are here with Daryl Pheasant for our treasurer's office update.
All right, just the first thing is, speaking of the gorge, we are getting $52,000 of emissions tax from them wired to us today for their concert in May. So that's good. I hadn't worked up the numbers to see what the attendance paid.
What percentage is that tax?
5%. We also got today in the mail payment from Sunbanks Resort for their jazz festival they have up there. They have a jazz festival in May and October or September. I can't remember the fall one, but they have a jazz festival that they collect emissions tax on, that they charge emissions, and we get the tax on that. We got the payment today from them in the mail for over $2,000. So I was wondering about then. I was going to be sending notice to the Live Nation, and they remembered. Because a couple years ago, they didn't remember and paid a lot of interest. I kept sending reminders, and they kept not paying. And so we got a lot of additional money due to their late payments, but they're really on top of it now. So that's good for them that they're paying and saving money, and we're not getting additional money for bad behavior. We're still getting a lot of phone calls, we have a lot of payments. So we had great success regarding response of numbers. Doesn't mean dollars. A lot of people are like a couple $100 delinquent. So, you know, it's just a matter of, you know, we had 6,600 people. Hopefully we'll get down to around 4,000 delinquent parcels still after this. And that's usually what is always remaining each year is a carryover of these people always just wait till the last second and pay the oldest year and over time. And so I have Carrie and Sable today. I believe today's the day that there's a levy certification training. I wanted them to see the process that I've known all these years to just understand all the math work the assessor's office has to do to appreciate how complicated, how complex that process is for each taxing district the assessor's does in calculating those levy rates. And of course, those levy rates are only as good as using the correct value. And so again, we're still expecting a whole bunch of corrections in July for all the state assessed utilities for them using all the wrong values for all those parcels. And that's supposed to happen in July. Now, your question this morning stirred me doing some additional research.
I knew it would, Daryl. I'm glad I asked.
So solar farms are for profit unless the government owns it, of which then there's no PUD privilege tax. Now, if they sell to a PUD the power and the PUD sells it, we get the tax on the sale from the PUD. But we get no PUD privilege tax at all from this entity unless it became a governmental entity, which then and that's not usually the purpose of creating these solar farms. One thing I found, one of the big things is we've had a county treasurer down in Clickitat County and in Columbia County, been really putting a lot of work to solve the major problems of solar farms and these things under B2, which B2 I wasn't aware of. Because one part of the equation that didn't make sense to me is why this is so bad for the taxpayer. What happens? You could have a $100 million value solar farm come in. It's personal property, but they put in state law that you can treat it as new construction, but it still depreciates down to 30% in 5 years. So what happens is the county can get all this money up front, but then their value goes down. With their value going down, the levy rates go up, and the rest of the taxpayers have to make up for that money. If the county just even keeps it at the same level, same levy rate. And that's what they've been working hard with not much help from the Commissioners Association. Somehow commissioners are looking at other things instead of the major impacts to the taxpayer. Now, there was a suggestion out there that I was working through that I'd love to see that didn't pass that talked about, let's just take these properties out of the equation and not have them pay property taxes because of the disaster of how it impacts taxpayers. Instead, let's charge an excise tax, sort of like leasehold tax. Straight amount over the years, not a depreciation thing. And you get this money and it's considered a windfall to all the taxing districts of that tax code. So it doesn't have an impact of raising taxpayers' money over time, levy rates, and just takes it out because this type of entity, it's personal property, but it got a special exception to be new construction. Well, counties look at it, great. Well, that's good, but it's not good for the taxpayers. That is bad for the taxpayers, this solution that we created. Which, when I saw this law, now I really, because I was talking to Greg Gallagher of Clickitat County, that this excise tax option really should be pursued and take this out of property taxes completely.
Okay, so
But now,
what do we need to do that?
Well, that's the thing is I don't know what language was created to do that. But it was there, but it wasn't getting much support from the Commissioners Association. You'd think something that's happening in a lot of eastern counties, and so actually to get together and find solutions, because all these entities are creating a lot of problems regarding the taxpayers. It's great to have new business, but when I saw this law, take a look at section BV, TIFs. I started wondering, what if, because one of the negative benefit is, well, the counties, we don't get any new money. And then they were counteracting at the hearing we went to, said, oh, you're gonna get all these new personal property taxes. And I said, no, we're not. That's not new construction. That's all that's gonna do is lower tax levy rates. So that's good for the taxpayer, but it still comes down to, we get a trickle of money on TIFs. And we're the ones actually paying for this infrastructure. County, the hospital general, the port general, joint library, are the ones paying for this by losing money. We don't get the money that's on this new value. So we're the financiers of this, of these TIF projects. Did we approve to finance them? And we have no power to stop it. But I saw this law. Since we already have an exception to the personal property laws already built in for geothermals and all these, what if we put the same language under TIFs? What if we had personal property that is created in TIFs be treated as new construction? It's not a brand new concept because they already have it already being doing on other situations. And so if we had the new construction on the new value of personal property, we can get some revenue. But right now, any great project, we get nothing, no matter what. We get lower levy rates. And so, but the problem is we're not getting much support. We're coming up with ideas in the Treasury Association. And at the meeting, we were talking about a lot of things because of this problem. But then in reality, this is a commissioner legislative push where you guys are the ones more empowered to push this type of change. But we're not getting any effort, any support. Is this really bad? Or if you hate TIFs, why isn't more being done to try to create changes? And that's where, then here, an article in Wenatchee World, House Blind County Commissioners figured out that this new Microsoft project and all the money they're not going to get after they approved it. After they did all this work thinking, okay, we're going to get some new revenue. Then all of a sudden they talk about a TIF, which they get nothing.
So we need to figure out a different way.
We need to figure out, either get the state to be part of the equation. Let them feel the pain as well. Here, they're the ones that have been in all this economic pushing for economic development, but somehow for this big one, they got off and not be impacted. Now we say, add them to the equation. Don't accept them. And let's use the law for geothermal to also apply to TIFs. So we can at least get some money on personal property. See, adding state to the equation still doesn't help us. It's just maybe it'll reduce the years. It's in. But having personal property now, if some treat as new construction every year for all the, a data center constantly has turnover of new equipment.
Right.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure that's going to happen. I don't know if there's going to be much turnover, but at least we get a big value increase from all the personal property in the place to get some money out of this. Right now, we're getting diddly. But how do we put a fire stick to the Commissioner Association to start thinking solutions? Doesn't seem like you guys really agree on anything and can't get moving on anything.
Well, let's put a solution together.
And so first thing is I was going, this concept after I saw this, I go, oh gosh, why can't we have to apply this and where we put it at? We already got a place. We already got a place to put it. So that's a lot easier to stick something in instead of creating something new. So just this morning, this is what I just came up with this morning. Talking to the treasurers about it. But then again, this isn't shouldn't be our issue. But we're the ones that know the processes and impacts. And it should be a partnership with the treasurers and the assessors and the commission association to find solutions for these problems.
We're always looking for an income stream.
Because all we're gonna see is this huge response and we get nothing, except for the services that increase to serve it. So we're supposed to hope, because of this TIF, that a whole bunch of houses be built outside the TIF and a whole bunch of businesses with high value built outside the TIF. No, right now they've made it geared towards it to be more attractive to how all this new stuff happened in the TIF. And we don't get anything. The only way we can benefit is things happening outside the TIF because of the TIF. I don't know if that's in the works. I don't know how much of that will ever happen. It took so much property.
Yeah, I don't think it worked out the way they thought.
Well, the valuation had a problem. And I sent an email to her. We haven't even billed the Hemford pill yet. I still haven't got the data. And we're running up to deadlines here to get even the revenue this year. But Melissa's got to come up with the numbers.
What's our deadline?
I don't,
Is it July 1st?
yeah. I don't know why she doesn't have this tickled. Every year I have to remind her. And this year I didn't remind her because she would remember. After all these years, she remembered to do it. I don't know what calendar she keeps of all the major products that generate a lot of revenue for us. Somehow this has never been a priority for her.
So is somebody else offer with that? Or?
Well, Matt's not back until tomorrow.
I want to check with Matt, see if.
Yep, I left an email. I sent an email to Matt and her saying, need this as fast as possible, get this bill out. I'm still waiting for Department of Revenue. I've made some proposals. PAX is now going to be working on some proposals of mine to fix the current use. I've sent copies of the solution to the assessor's office on fixing the open space loss worksheet form. I found that actually it's not that bad a fix, but they said if we do, it'll probably not happen until March 26th. For something, these just minor tweaks. And it still takes that long. Supposedly the fixes to the other current use will happen in September, but they're not sure yet. The one that was a state law 3 years ago. And the one I told them over a year ago that the forms that the state was using and PAX and all the softwares were not doing correctly. And we're still waiting for that fix to happen. And unfortunately, we're not one of the beta testers on that. And then I've been complaining that delinquent real estate excise tax interest and penalties aren't calculated correctly. Well, that's hopefully coming out in September, that fix. Over a year and a half from when I started complaining about it. That wasn't compliant with state law. So I'm over my time. All right, so, but I wanted to show you the law that I didn't know about until today. And some of the hardest things to do when you know, since I had a lot of legislative proposals passed and signed by governors over the years, and my law proposals for more tweaks was approved again by the association. Now they have to look at it as, is it something we can, how do we present to the legislature? How do we find a sponsor? Is this a standalone bill? It's probably not. So even though we all approved it, doesn't mean it's going to be presented next year. You have to find the right timing to not waste legislators' time on sponsoring something that is not significant enough. Like changing the state bird, creating a special state lizard. How much time did that take? But now that I have a place where that can be stuck entered, now that's way easier for legislative fix than something standalone. So, just want to let you know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Daryl.
So the answer to the question is no PUD for this.
Yep.
So, and that's the problem with these entities is they look like great things to the county and they're not. Not for our bottom line. All right?
Thank
Hope
you.
your back feels better.
It does right now.
And we're now 9 days before my surgery. So. Yep, and I think I convinced my daughter to let me stay at my house. And then I told her I wasn't expecting her to be at my house 24 hours, so that I'd be paying people to come in. And you just need to tell me the times you want to not be at my house. So you can have a life on your own, and I will fill those times up during the first week.
There you go.
I think she was thinking that she had to be with me all the time, that's why she had to be at her house.
Like,
No, I'll check in. And if you make her mad, she'll just leave.
Leave her house. She said, well, I can't sleep at your house. Okay, well, then I'll hire people to come at that time, so you can get some sleep.
All right.
All right,
See you, Daryl.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since our position management review team has been canceled, we canceled commissioner work session, so we will go into recess at 11:34 until tomorrow at 8:30 when we are back for consent agenda review.